So I think like the last weekend was a reminder that politicians are humans too. How are you going with your health stuff? Because you had a scare a couple of years ago as well.
I did, but doing great, feeling well. Almost exactly 2 years to be totally cancer-free and feel awesome and glad to have my energy back and be, out on the trail and trying to keep up with my 3 kids.
So good to hear. So you've been governor now for 2 years. I'm just wondering what it was like for you to do that transition from sort of aide to principal, like the learning curve that you've had, achievements that you've made.
It's been an incredible first 18 months in office, and thankfully I had the opportunity to see my dad lead in my home state of Arkansas for almost 11 years, and I'm very biased, but I don't think there's a better governor that we've ever had in our country's history than my dad, and so I had a great mentor and great person to follow, and somebody certainly that I could call on anytime with hard questions, but I've loved doing the job. It took a minute to get settled in, like anything new does. And I remember my dad telling me my whole life that being governor was the best job in the world. And right after I got in office, I called him and I said, "Hey, when does that start?" Because it had been kind of a hard week. And he goes, "Well, Sarah, you haven't done anything yet, but soon you will be out and about and you'll be in a grocery store or a kid's baseball game or somewhere, and someone will come up to you when you don't expect it. And they'll tell you that because of the work that you're doing, their life is better, their kids have more opportunity." He goes, "That's when you know that it's the best job in the world." And fast forward, now I get to experience that on the regular basis because we've opened up universal school choice, and so regularly meeting families who are impacted because their kids are now getting the education that they need and deserve. We've cut taxes not once, not twice, but 3 times. And so people have more money in their pockets, and they need that more than ever because of the absolute burdens that are coming out of Washington and being put on the backs of Americans across the country. Providing that relief is making a difference in families. And so now getting to hear their stories has been a really remarkable and incredible experience. And I can't wait to see what we can do over the next 6 years.
You're sort of speaking like you've grown up around this. I was wondering what you think, how this convention sort of compares to previous ones. You had sort of a standout moment with your speech. Just if you could give us insight into that moment.
Sure. I think one of the most powerful moments so far of the entire convention was just when the president walked into the hall on Monday night. Given the events that took place over the weekend leading up to the convention, we have a more unified Republican Party than we've ever had. Everyone coalescing around Donald Trump. And that was already happening, but that really solidified it, I think, when he stood up after taking a bullet from an assassin, put his hand in the air, and gave, I think, every American confidence in his ability to lead and to fight for this country. So when he came onto the convention floor for the first time after that, it was electric, it was powerful, and I think that we're going to see that tenfold tonight when he takes the stage.
I mean, you've been around him for a long time. How do you think that sort of he's changed since you've known him? How has the party changed?
Well, this has become Donald Trump's party, certainly since he first came down the escalators in 2016. He was an unknown political figure. He was a very well-known person, but an unknown political figure, and he has certainly not only solidified but proven himself. During his time as president, he laid out a really aggressive, bold action plan while he was campaigning, and then he went and delivered on it. And we're going to see that happen again when he takes office and wins in November. We have a proven record and a track record that we know he can follow and in a way that we know he can lead, and I think we'll get to continue to see that.
Does him choosing J.D. Vance as a vice presidential pick kind of solidify, this MAGA movement within the Republican Party? I mean, what would it mean for potentially someone thinking about running in 2028?
I certainly don't think that the MAGA movement is going anywhere. Donald Trump has created something that I think will far outlast any time that he holds office, because you see people coalescing not just around a person, which they certainly have, but around what he has talked about. And people will now demand that from our party leadership. And we've seen that in races from the the local to the state, all the way up to the federal side. And so it's certainly not going anywhere. I think J.D. Vance will be a great complement to the president. He has a powerful story, which we got to hear and see last night. And I think he's going to do a really great job connecting with Americans, particularly in the Rust Belt, and really fighting for the American worker, something that's going to be really important for the November election.
I mean, you mentioned the things that you want to achieve in Arkansas for the next 6 years, so no interest in joining the Trump administration again?
You know, I love what I'm doing. I'm glad to be back home in Arkansas. I'm going to do everything I can to help President Trump win in November. And I think him having strong conservative Republican governors fighting alongside him, implementing good policy at the state level is really important. And I'm glad that I get to serve in that role.
Do you have any advice for maybe his potential next White House press secretary?
You know, have fun, enjoy the moment. It's one of the most amazing opportunities you could ever have for one of the most incredible public servants there is. And so don't forget to slow down and take it all in every once in a while and have a good time with that role.
You sort of mentioned about the influence that your father had on, your ideology, your career. I mean, I think there's this sort of sense of there's becoming a Trump dynasty, Trump legacy. I mean, as sort of someone that's a part of maybe a smaller version of that, I mean, what insight do you have into that dynamic?
You know, the president has 5 amazing kids that can do and take on anything. They have endured relentless attacks from all over, and yet not only like their father do they continue to keep standing up, but they fight back. And so I don't think that this is the end of the Trump line by any stretch. And one I certainly am keeping my eye on is his granddaughter, who took the stage for the first time and did just a really incredible job. And I love the heartwarming stories. And I think one of the coolest moments that she shared was how he printed off her honor roll paper and showed it to all of his friends like any other proud grandpa would do. And so it's really neat to see her talk about him in that way. And I think she's definitely one to watch.
So something I'm curious about is, like, tonight we are sort of seeing maybe a professional fighter introduce the president. You do a great job within the party in terms of reaching out to and appealing to women. Do you have any concerns that this sort of projection of strength and masculinity might become too macho? Is there a way that maybe turn suburban women off?
I don't think so. We've had a lot of build up to this moment with people talking to every demographic, every aspect of the country over the course of the week. And I think it'll be really fun and exciting to get the crowd hyped up even more than they already are just before he takes the stage.
And let's say if there's like a vice president, Kamala Harris becomes, the presidential nominee on the Democratic ticket. Is there sort of any advice that you would give to the Republican side to maybe sort of react to that?
I think keep doing what we're doing. I don't think she's going to mount if it is her or anyone else for that matter. The Democrat Party's ideas are so broken, and we've seen that over the last 3.5 years that they aren't serving the American people well. Donald Trump is going to win in November no matter who the Democrats put up. And so whether it's Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, I think we continue to stay focused on our message, and it'll carry us to a big victory.